What makes RuneScape good? I think anyone that plays this game has been asked this question before. And before I go any farther in this video, I want to hear your opinion. If you play the game, how come? Do you play RS3 or Old School? What makes this game good to you? As a preface, I'll be talking mainly about Old School RuneScape, as that's where I have experience. I have not played RS3, but I would love to hear anyone's opinions on it too. So back to the question. What makes RuneScape good? Or, why do people play it? RuneScape isn't an easy game to answer that for. In truth, I would go as far to say that at its core, RuneScape isn't a good game. It teaches its mechanics poorly, it expects large amounts of time investments for very little content, and mistakes such as player death get punished severely, especially for newer players. I have always thought that the Iron Man style of playing, where you cannot trade with other players, is the closest thing to how the game is designed to be. Cash is harder to come by, things like equipment tiers take longer to progress through, and specialty shops and locations see much more use than in normal play. In some cases, this is better. Having to grind XP for combat stats is less of an issue since you have to kill monsters anyway for their drops, and content that is dead for many normal players is extremely valuable for Iron Men. Despite this being how the game is designed to be played, this style is a huge grind with very little changing day to day for players. Now, if all that's true, then why do people play it? My belief is that while RuneScape isn't a good game, its metagame is. In fact, the metagame is what makes it so unique and different from any of its competition. In this context, I'm using metagame to refer to the game within a game, things like the economy, player behavior, and its social experience. Sticking with the Iron Man example, the gameplay of an Iron Man is essentially one long slog through slow content. This gameplay is boring and terrible, but I don't think that's where the fun comes from. I think the fun comes from beating the game and its own rules and its own logic, and coming up with a strategy on how to do that. For Iron Men, I believe that the fun comes from finding their best route to beat the game. Some may spawn in and immediately go straight into mining and smithing, trying to make their own armor. Others might take just a pure money-making approach to buy out their own obstacles. I think that figuring out how to overcome RuneScape's obstacles of time commitment and risk is how players find fun in this game. For a standard player, this metagame competition instead surfaces as finding the best XP rates, optimal armor builds, or simply the best way to get as rich as possible as fast as possible. At its core, I think this is what drives the metagame of Old School RuneScape. It's what keeps players coming back for more, it's something they can't get from another game. The real question for me is, how did RuneScape come to create such unique player culture? RuneScape's world, its inconsistencies and risks, they all have such a unique history to them that I don't think there's an exact cause I can point to. As it is today though, RuneScape may be a great game because at its inception, it was never really perfect to begin with. What do you think? Leave a comment below on why you play, what you love, and what you hate most about the game. I really want to know.